If you did well in school, you would get straight A's and a 4.0 grade point average. And as an adult, if you do well with your money, you get an 800 credit score. 800 is considered essentially perfect. And the benefit of having a perfect credit score is that lenders look at you as a low-risk borrower. So you get the best interest rates on mortgages, auto loans, and personal loans, and you qualify for pretty much every credit card that you ever apply for. So you get the best rewards and the best bonuses that are available. Having a perfect credit score can easily save you thousands and thousands of dollars across your lifetime. I'm Terrell Higgins, your real estate and personal finance guide, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the 6 factors that go into achieving a perfect credit score, what you have to do to improve in each area, and this is completely free advice. All I request in return is that you like the video so the algorithm will spread it to more people. And if you're feeling bold, leave a comment down below that will also help the algorithm spread the video to more people. Let's get into it. So the first factor, and this is by far the most important, is payment history. Payment history makes up 35% of your credit score, and you don't want to miss any payments. So the way this works is if you miss a single payment, it can drastically affect your credit score. Imagine you had a credit card for 18 months and you missed one payment. So you have 17 of a potential 18 months that you've paid on time. That gives you 94%. And 94% puts you in the worst category for payment history. Anything less than 97% is considered terrible. You are considered unlendable by credit agencies. So here's another example. So imagine you had that same one credit card for 5 years. So of those 5 years, there's 60 possible potential payments, and you missed a single payment in that 5 years. So you're 59 out of 60. That puts you at 98.3%. And that sounds pretty good, but that puts you in the yellow for payment history. So let's do one more scenario here. Imagine you had 2 credit cards across that 5 years. So between the 2 credit cards, you had a potential of 120 payments on time, and you missed a single payment. So you have 119 out of 120 possible payments, and that puts you at 99.16%, and that puts you in the good category. To max out the payment history category, you actually want to be at 100%. You don't want to miss any payments. And if you miss a payment, it's going to take 7 years for that missed payment to roll off of your payment history. So the best way to improve in this category is to have more credit cards. So if you do miss a payment, it doesn't impact your score as much because there were more possible potential payments. So it is a smaller percentage of your payment history than if you only had 1 or 2 cards. Even if you're not using those credit cards, those payment cycles count towards your possible payment history. So just having more cards will limit the impact of missing a single payment on your credit history. So let's talk about the second most important factor relating to your credit utilization. Credit utilization makes up 30% of your credit score. So your credit utilization is a ratio of your credit card balances over your total available credit. So a good credit utilization percentage is around 30%. And if you want the top rates, you want to be less than 10%. So how does this work? Imagine you have $1,000 on a credit card with a $1,000 limit. You are utilizing 100% of your credit, it's maxed out, and this is terrible. Lenders don't like it, and it puts you in the worst category. Now imagine you have that same $1,000, but the credit card has a limit of $30,000. That makes your credit utilization 3.3%, and you are in excellent standing with the credit agencies. One more example. So imagine you have 5 different credit cards, and across those 5 credit cards, your total limit is $120,000. And then some emergency pops up, or you're doing a home remodel, and you put $10,000 on one credit card. So that $10,000 out of your $120,000 limit is only 8%. So you are still in excellent standing with the credit agency. So to help with this category, you want the highest possible limits on your credit cards and the most credit cards with those high limits. And this isn't so you utilize these high limits. It's so that if you have any spending that accidentally rolls over from one month to the next month, your credit utilization rate doesn't go through the roof. So if you put $10,000 on those credit cards and it rolled from one month to the next month, in that example, your utilization rate was 8%. If you paid off that $10,000 in that same month, your utilization rate is 0%. So you want high limits, you don't really want to carry over balances, and you want to have as many cards as possible to help with this category. The other thing that you should be doing is that every 6 months to a year, you should go to your credit card companies and request an increase in the limit on your credit cards. To achieve the top scores in credit utilization, you want to keep your utilization rate less than 9%. And the good news, if you pay off your credit cards, your credit score will actually rise very rapidly. It quickly recovers as soon as you get rid of those credit card balances. There is a myth running around that you want to keep a small balance on your credit cards so that the credit agencies have something to report. That's absolutely not true. You want to pay off your credit cards in full every single month. You don't want to be racking up fees and those outrageous interest rates that credit card companies are charging. Let's move on to the next factor, length. Some people think that length doesn't matter. It's the motion of the ocean or something like that. Wait, what was I talking about? Yes, the length of your credit history. The longer your credit history, the better. Your credit age actually makes up 15% of your score. And to max out this category, the average credit length needs to be above 9 years. So your credit length is actually an average across all of your accounts. So how does this work? So say you have one credit card open and it's been open for 4 years. That means your credit length is 4 years. Now imagine you have that one credit card for 4 years and then you open a card today. That drops your average credit history length to 2 years because you're averaging today and 4 years, you meet in the middle, it's 2 years. So to max out this category, you want as many lines of credit open for as long as possible. So when you open a new line of credit, it doesn't crater your average credit history. You also don't want your oldest lines of credit to get closed. So you want to maintain those old lines of credit open. This factor is tough because you really just have to wait. And I personally am nowhere close to that 9-year average credit history. I was very late to the game in figuring out how to max out a credit score. So my average credit age is only around 4 years, but thankfully, this factor is only 15% of your score, and if you maintain the other areas, you can still obtain a perfect score. So some people, when they open a new credit card, they can see their credit score drop almost 50 points. And it's because their average credit history went down, but also because of the next factor. That new line of credit was a hard inquiry on their credit. New credit or hard inquiries make up 10% of your credit score. And applying for too many different lines of credit in a short period of time sends a warning sign to credit agencies. They assume the worst. Something's happening in your life and you're about to max out all your credit cards. So you'll take a temporary hit if you apply for a bunch of new lines of credit. But these inquiries will stay on your credit record for 2 years, but they stop affecting your score after 12 months. And to max out the new credit hard inquiry factor, you need 0 inquiries on your credit within the last 12 months. And to be honest, that's kind of crazy because you do want to use your credit for things. So the best way to manage this is if you're going to get a mortgage or an auto loan, you want to apply for a bunch of different loans across a bunch of different companies in a short period of time. And if you do it in a very short period of time, they lump all those things as a single inquiry. And they do this so you can shop around for the best rate without it cratering your credit score. Credit companies are very weird. They want to give money to people who don't need the money, and they don't want to give money to the people who actually need it. And these days, it's possible to do a soft inquiry on your credit. So if you're applying for a job and your employer does a background check, that is how they see your credit score. When you look at Credit Karma or any of these credit card sites that show a credit score, that is a soft inquiry. Utility and insurance companies, they will do a soft inquiry into your credit. And some of those pre-approved credit card offers, they are doing soft inquiries into your credit. And those soft pulls of your credit don't impact your credit score. So if you're looking into new lines of credit, it's important to recognize whether they're going to do a hard pull or a soft pull on your credit, because the soft pulls won't affect your credit, but the hard pulls will. So the next category that makes up your credit score is your credit mix. Your credit mix is the number of lines of credit that you have open. And this is 10% of your score. And this is going to sound absolutely crazy because you would think the fewer lines of credit that you have open, the better. But credit agencies actually want to see as many lines and many different lines of credit open as possible. To max out the credit mix category, you need over 21 plus different lines of credit open. And this could be auto loans, mortgages, credit cards, student loans, personal loans, whatever credit mix that you have, they want to see 21 plus lines of credit open. And you do not need to carry a balance on all these different credit lines. So if you just had a bunch of credit cards that you make one purchase on a year and immediately pay it off to keep that credit line open, it will satisfy this credit mix category and it will max out this 10% of your credit score. But just Note that if you're trying to build up to that 21 plus lines of credit, you're not going to be able to do it all at once. No one's going to issue that many different credit cards all at once. You're going to have to do it strategically across a few different years and build up to that many lines of credit. For all my math buffs out there, they may note that we're already at 100% for the credit score. And you're right, this last category does not directly factor in to your credit score. But if you have issues with this last category, it will crater the rest of your credit score. If we can go back to my school analogy, imagine you were getting straight A's in school and then you get into a fight and then get expelled. This is going to overshadow everything else that you were doing. So the last factor is derogatory marks. And derogatory marks stay on your credit history for 7 to 10 years. So derogatory marks are things like bankruptcies, foreclosures, late payments, repossessions, charge-offs. So a charge-off is when a credit agency thinks that they will not be able to collect those payments from you. And pretty much all of them stay on your credit for 7 years. There is a difference between if you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you agree to make payments and you try and meet your debt obligation, and that will only stay on your record for 7 years. Where a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you get all your assets liquidated to try and repay that debt, and that's actually going to stay on your credit history for 10 years. These derogatory marks will stick with you for a long period of time. But there are 5 different ways to get rid of derogatory marks off of your credit record. So the first way is that the derogatory mark is incorrect. You can file a protest with the credit bureaus online to try and get that derogatory mark removed from your credit history. The second way is to request a goodwill deletion. So it was a legitimate derogatory mark, but you paid in full. And this works best if you have a long credit history with that agency. So imagine you had one late payment and you reached out to that credit agency to do a goodwill deletion of that derogatory mark. They may do this for you if you have a long history with them and you actually paid in full the money that you owed them. The third way is called a pay for delete agreement. So imagine your debt got sent to a collections agency. You can actually establish an agreement with them that if you pay off that debt, they will delete that derogatory mark from your record. It doesn't always work, and not all agencies are willing to negotiate this pay for deletion agreement, but it is another way to try and get rid of derogatory marks. The fourth way is just waiting out the derogatory mark. And like I said, it's going to take 7 years for pretty much all of these, with the only exception being a Chapter 7 bankruptcy that's going to take 10. And the fifth way is to negotiate a settlement. So say you had a charge-off where the credit agency said that you would not pay that money, but then you go back and you actually pay those funds. They can change that status from charged off to paid as agreed or settled in full. This derogatory mark will still show up on your record, but that changed status is looked at a lot more favorably when you're applying for future credit. There are credit repair agencies out there that promise to get rid of these derogatory marks and try and improve your credit. Just note that they're not going to do anything different than what I just laid out here. They're going to try one of those 5 methods to try and get rid of the derogatory marks and all the actions I specified for those other 5 factors. So you might as well do it yourself instead of paying money that you probably don't have for them to do something that you can do yourself. So to summarize, everything you need to max out your credit score, you need to make 100% of your payments on time. You need to maintain your credit utilization less than 9%. Your average credit length needs to be greater than 9+ years. Your credit mix, your lines of credit, you need over 21+ lines of credit open, and you need 0 inquiries into your credit in the last 12 months, and you need 0 derogatory marks. If you hit all those metrics, you're going to be at an 800 credit score. So one last thing I want to tell you guys before I leave you today is the idea of credit piggybacking. So this is getting on a line of credit with someone that has been open for a very long period of time. So it pulls up your average credit age. And this could be a way to pull up your credit score. There are a lot of agencies that frown upon the credit piggybacking practice, but this could be a way, if you have kids, you could add them on to a line of credit that you've had open for a long period of time to help boost their credit. If you follow all the advice that I've laid out in today's video, you will drastically improve your credit score. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and if you're still trying to figure out how to tackle all this debt, I actually did an entire video on that topic. Keep getting 1% better every day, and I will catch you next time.